If you have ever wondered why some people carry fire in their ambition and then that same fire shows up in their knees, joints, skin, and skeletal strain, this teaching is for you. Today, I want to take you into a very specific and very revealing zone of Jyotish Ayurveda, Pitta rising in the 10th house. And this is where it gets fascinating. Because the 10th house is not only the house of karma, action, visibility, responsibility, work in the world, status, pressure, and performance. In the body, it also maps to the knees, lower thighs, upper calves, bones, skeletal system, skin, and the parathyroid-linked framework of structure and mineral regulation. So when you bring Pitta here, you are not just talking about abstract heat, you are talking about heat entering structure, heat entering duty, heat entering performance, heat entering the very architecture that helps you stand, move forward, climb, bear weight, and keep going. And when the slide points to Mars and the Sun, you immediately know why this gets intense. Because both of these grahas carry a strong fiery signature. Mars is penetrating, inflammatory, sharp, forceful, competitive. The Sun is heating, drying, commanding, centralizing, and intensely will-driven. So when either of these becomes strongly connected to the 10th house, or when the 10th house itself becomes a field of Pitta aggravation, the body begins to speak in the language of friction, irritation, inflammation, pressure, overuse, and heat. This is the first thing I want you to understand. The 10th house is your ability to bear karma, not just perform karma. Bear it. That is why the knees are here. The knees are what bend, support, stabilize, and carry the weight of your movement in the world. So when Pitta rises in the 10th, the person often develops a life pattern where duty becomes heated, responsibility becomes urgent, work becomes identity, performance becomes moralized, achievement becomes survival. You may look at such a person and say, this person is driven. But I want you to look deeper. Very often this is not just healthy drive. This is overheated drive. And overheated drive has consequences. So physically, what does this look like? It can show up as burning knee pain, inflammatory swelling in the joints, redness around the kneecap, heat in the calves, sharp joint pain, inflamed tendons, skin irritation or rashes around the knees, sensitivity to pressure, increased body heat, and reduced sleep because the discomfort itself has become inflammatory and restless. Now pause there. This is not random. This is symbolic precision. Why reduce sleep? Because Pitta does not just inflame tissues. It inflames vigilance. It inflames internal pressure. It inflames the sense that something must be done now. So the person is not merely in pain. The person is often in a state of internal overcommand. And this is where healers and astrology students need to become more subtle. Do not read the 10th house only as career. Read it also as strain pattern. Read it as the body's relationship to labor, expectation, hierarchy, burden, and external identity. When Sun is involved, the person may push because they feel they must uphold an image, a role, or a standard. There is pride in endurance. There is a refusal to appear weak. There can be a deep identification with being the one who carries responsibility. So the fire of the Sun in the 10th can become a fire of self-demand. The body then begins to harden, dry, overheat, and protest. When Mars is involved, the pattern becomes even sharper. The person wants results. They move fast, they override pain, they compete with time, they attack delay, they may not know how to do anything halfway. So the inflammation is not only physical, it is behavioral, it is karmic, it is psychological. The body starts mirroring the attitude, sharp, hot, strained, reactive. And now I want you to catch something very important. The 10th house governs visible action. So imbalance here often becomes visible only after a long period of invisible internal pressure. In other words, the joint pain you see today may be the last chapter of a much older story. The story may be, I have to keep going. I cannot slow down. I must perform. I must be effective. I must hold everything together. I do not have the right to collapse. That is classic overheating of duty. So if you are a healer, do not just ask where is the pain, ask what burden has become inflammatory. And if you are an astrology student, do not stop at saying Mars in the 10th gives ambition or Sun in the 10th gives authority. That is too shallow. Ask instead, what happens when ambition becomes inflammatory in the body? What happens when authority becomes pressure in the bones? What happens when karma becomes heat in the knees? That is where this teaching becomes alive. There is also a structural intelligence here. Bones and joints are meant to provide support and alignment. Pitta, when balanced, gives intelligent action, courage, decisiveness, precision, and leadership. So this is not a rejection of Pitta. This is about regulating it. Because balanced Pitta in the 10th gives disciplined contribution. Aggravated Pitta in the 10th gives friction with one's own structure. Balanced Sun in the 10th says, I act with clarity. Aggravated Sun in the 10th says, I burn myself to sustain identity. Balanced Mars in the 10th says, I move with strength and execution. Aggravated Mars in the 10th says, I force outcomes and inflame the instrument. And the instrument is the body. So what is the practical reading principle here? When you see 10th house activation with strong Pitta signatures, you should think in layers. First, the karmic layer. Is the person over-identified with work, visibility, responsibility, or achievement? Second, the behavioral layer. Are they overriding rest, ignoring pain, pushing through strain, or living in constant urgency? Third, the somatic layer. Are the knees, bones, tendons, skin, and heat regulation patterns already showing irritation? Fourth, the psychological layer. Is there irritability, intolerance, impatience, frustration, or a feeling that everything depends on them? Now you are reading the chart like a healer, not just an interpreter. And that matters because the solution is not merely to reduce symptoms. The deeper work is to stop converting identity into inflammation. That means the person has to learn a new relationship with duty, a new relationship with excellence, a new relationship with timing, a new relationship with ambition, not weaker, smarter. The fire is not the enemy. Unmanaged fire is the problem. So if you are teaching this, remember the essence. The 10th house is where karma becomes load-bearing. And when Pitta enters that load-bearing architecture through the sun, Mars, or intense fiery activation, the body may express the cost through inflammation, heat, sharpness, swelling, visible irritation, and strained endurance. This is why these teachings are so powerful. They let you see that the body is not betraying the person. The body is revealing the person's karmic style. And once you see that, healing becomes much more intelligent. If this kind of rigorous astrology Ayurveda teaching helps you think more deeply, stay with this channel because I'm building these house by house and planet by planet so you can learn to read both symbolism and symptoms with much more precision. And if you are a healer, counselor, or serious astrology student who wants to go deeper into how planetary patterns show up in body, mind, behavior, and life direction, subscribe and keep following this series. Finally, take a moment and ask yourself, where in my life am I converting responsibility into heat? Where am I carrying so much pressure that even my structure is beginning to protest? That question alone can change the way you read a chart and the way you listen to a body.